Mr. Saccharin with Brady. Appreciate your time, and we'll be speaking soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for having me.
All right, in the meantime here, we do want to keep it moving. Let's take a quick commercial break. I hope you found that conversation informative. That was a major Supreme Court ruling today. We had to get to it, but there are a lot of stories left to get to. Let's take that break. When we come back, we'll be talking about auto tariffs. The main announcement today on the economy President Trump made from the Oval Office, levying 25% tariffs on all foreign-made cars. So how will this impact the economy? What are domestic car manufacturers saying? What are the auto unions saying? All that and more in 2 minutes.
The reason I gathered you here today is for a family strategy. John, after dinner, we get 30 more minutes stuff. Timmy, let's work together on your long division. Let's do this. The learning product
policies. There's a lot more momentum from the tech sector. There's a lot of excitement with AI. While obviously that still have to be worked out, we're no longer just anticipating or waiting for government stimulus to kick in. So I think that's where 2025 does feel a little different from 2024 and the last couple of years. There are still inherent problems in the economy. The housing sector still needs time to recover, and consumer and business sentiment still needs time to recover as well. So I think that would gradually improve, but I would argue that we are very much at the bottom of that cycle right now, and that to us provides some excitement for the Chinese market.
South Korea and Japan, when you look at this price action in the car makers in both of these markets, is that a cue to perhaps tactically withdraw from South Korea and Japan, or does it present a buying opportunity?
I do think that South Korea and Japan continues to be attractive, but that said, the specific sectors like car makers, I think that there's going to be a lot of uncertainties with tariffs and potential discussion and negotiations, and arguably for a lot of manufacturers of goods, the same could apply over the next couple of weeks, especially next week when the White House is expected to announce more tariff measures on its trade partners. That said, I think some areas such as technology, or this hardware, despite, again, President Trump focusing on semiconductors, you can argue that the development of AI could continue to demand semiconductors and data centers equipment that could potentially counter some of the negative impact from tariff uncertainties.
Tariff uncertainties. I want to take a pause and take a step back and play a soundbite from Michael Shikami, whom we talked to earlier this morning, about the whole uncertainty issue with regards to tariffs. Take a listen to this and then we'll continue talking.
What's the one thing people hate the most? Not knowing. It's the uncertainty. It's the what's behind the door kind of feeling that we all.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell, and we're doing a live stream on YouTube tonight. I'm also opening up the X Spaces for you to do a call-in if you would like. Please help support my work by making sure that you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube: Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. It's very important that you subscribe to all those channels. I do get strikes on YouTube periodically, and it's important that you are able to see my live streams in different modalities. I also have a website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. Please click that link, go to my website. If you'd like to help support my work by donating, you can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee on my homepage. You can also be a paid member to Patreon. The link is in the description of this video. It's through the people that donate or are members to Patreon and or purchasing the products on my store that helps me do these videos for free. I cover international affairs, domestic news, and finance and economics, scientific endeavors, health and wellness. You get a lot of information. If you pay attention to what I have to say, you can make money in the market and also improve your health. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support my work with these different modalities. With that said, let me just plug one product before we go back to the news here. I have a health protocol, what I call the core, all right? And you can add stuff to it, but basically it works like this. Max 35 or max 14 to help boost up your innate immune system. C60 to soak up free radicals and reduce stress in the cell. turmeric, ashwagandha, and lignans to bring down inflammation that will help the immune system, and Boomer Boost, which will speed up your metabolism and increase your energy levels. So let's talk about the first pillar of that core protocol. Max 14 or max 35. Take a teaspoon a day, swish it in your mouth, gargle, and then swallow. Gargle for maybe 20 seconds or so. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day until you go back to baseline, and then use a tablespoon. But it's important to take every day. I take this max 14 or max 35 every day. All right. I've been doing that for 5 years. So what this does is that it's improving your oral hygiene. It's improving your mucosal lining in your oral cavity and your oral pharynx, and improving the health of the epithelial lining. That's really important for your innate immune system. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the max 14 or the max 35, take it every day. Take a teaspoon a day. Again, if you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or two a day. And structural nanosilver soaps. Very high quality soaps. You can get it in charcoal tea tree or lemongrass. And you can also get it in lavender and in peppermint. Get a few bars for your household. Very high quality soaps made from structural nanosilver. Help support my work and help support your health and wellness. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. With that said, I want to go back to CNBC.
And concerns about its China sales. Emily Tan has the details behind that story and joins us now. Good morning, Emily.
Hi there, Shreya. Good to see you. And these are some environmental guidelines that are being put forward by the regulators, the NDRC, and that causing a lot of downside pressure in NVIDIA shares overnight, with Beijing introducing energy efficiency rules for the use of advanced
Are you
chips.
looking to start your own?
So this would effectively prevent some of the Chinese companies, if it is enforced, from buying NVIDIA's processors. This as the H20, which was approved by the U.S. government back in October 2023 for Chinese use, tailored to meet Washington's export controls. But with that, it fails to meet the new NDRC's new rules. The regulator also quietly discouraging tech giants from purchasing these chips. So names like Alibaba and Tencent. If you didn't know, NVIDIA generates something like $17 billion in sales from the Chinese market. And if enforced strictly, this would put a dent in its sales. So as I mentioned, Alibaba and Tencent had been stocking up and buying up all these chips following the recent DeepSeek moment. And we're going to be watching reaction in the market today, although we may not see a huge reaction in SMIC or Hua Hong Semi, but we could see the reaction in the TSMC and the Taiwan-backed chip stocks, given the weakness that we saw in NVIDIA shares last night. Martin, it's back to you.
I want to go to live now. They're covering Trump's announcement in the Oval Office earlier today.
Executive order today that's going to lead to tremendous growth in the automobile industry. As you know, the electric mandate that we did allows you to buy a car now, electric or gasoline powered or hybrid. You can buy any car you want. We had it so that within a short period of time, you had to buy all electric, and the country could never provide the money necessary to build all of those power plants that you would need all over the country. As you know, in the Middle West, they built 8 power stations. That's like the size of this desk or smaller. And they ended up spending $9 billion on 8. And of the 8, 4 of them didn't work. And we're not doing that. So you can buy electric, or you can buy gasoline, or you can buy hybrid, or you can buy whatever you want to buy. And that's the way it should be. The market's going to determine that. And you're going to see prices going down, but it's going to go down specifically because they're going to buy what we're doing, incentivizing companies to, and even countries, but companies to come into America and build. And we're already setting records for new plants. I think the new plant number, the tally is just within a period of a few weeks. It's very large. I want to be accurate. It's very large. And I'd like to ask Will just to come and give some of the basics, and then I'll sign it. And it's off to the races.
I think our automobile business will flourish like it's never flourished before. Yes, please, Will.
Thank you, sir. As you stated, we've prepared for your attention a proclamation imposing a 25% tariff on foreign-made cars and light trucks. This is in addition to tariffs that are already in place on those goods. In addition to, as you said, spurring increased domestic manufacture of cars and trucks, we expect that these tariffs will result in over $100 billion of new annual revenue to the United States of America in tariff revenue.
I think ultimately we could probably anywhere from 600 billion to $1 trillion will be taken in over the relatively short-term period, meaning a year from now. But starting right away. I think we'll go from 600 to $1 trillion within 2 years. And I think we'll be right from the beginning, we're going to be at a very high number, right from the beginning. And right from the beginning, you're going to have a lot of construction jobs, but you're also going to have a lot of automobile jobs. So this is very exciting, but it's also exciting because of what's happening with other aspects. We're going to be doing tariffs on pharmaceuticals in order to bring our pharmaceutical industry back. We don't make anything here in terms of drugs, medical drugs, different types of drugs that you need, medicines. It's in other countries, largely made in China, a lot of it made in Ireland. Ireland was very smart. We love Ireland. But we're going to have that. We're going to have lumber. We're going to free up some of our land. And you'll be able to make a lot of other standards like fire cuts. If Los Angeles had fire cuts, which they didn't have, that's a gap of half a football field between areas. You wouldn't have had the fires. They would have been contained. But you have fire cuts. And by the way, you sell that wood for a lot of money, a lot of profit. It's made from that. But we're going to be doing lumber. We're freeing up our land so that we don't have to use outside sources of lumber. Energy, we're doing fantastically well at. The energy prices have been coming down rapidly as we increase supply, and we've already done that. We have Chris and Doug are doing a fantastic job on that. That's Department of Energy and Department of Interior. And they're working together hand in hand because Interior has the land and Energy has the ability to do the drilling and do what they have to do. Our coal areas are going to be opened up for clean, beautiful coal. Germany's opening up many coal plants now. They tried the wind and it didn't work. They almost went out of business. They almost went bankrupt. They tried wind, which is a disaster. It's just too expensive and it doesn't look good, kills all the birds, a lot of problems. But Germany is now building a lot of coal plants. China is building one a week. Think of that. And they're using coal, which is very powerful. Coal is a very powerful energy. And we're opening up our coal mines again. And we're going to do, I call it beautiful, clean coal. The technology is so good now that coal can give you tremendous power at the same time. It can be very clean. But we're also obviously doing oil and gas and various other things. You can do pretty much whatever you want. We don't like the wind because we think it ruins the landscapes, the plains, ruins them. And it's got a lot of problems. It's also by far the most expensive energy. It looks horrible in the oceans. It's dangerous in the oceans in terms of navigation. And if you look at what's happening with whales, in one area, they lost 2 whales, like in 20 years, washed ashore. And this year they had 17 wash ashore. So there's something happened out there. There's something driving the whales a little bit loco, but they lost 2 in 20 years. And now they lost 17 in a short period of time. So it's something wrong out there. So this is very exciting. This is going to lead to the construction of a lot of plants, and in this case, auto plants. And you're going to see numbers like you haven't seen, both in terms of employment. It takes a little while. You're going to have great construction numbers initially, and then ultimately you're going to have a lot of people making a lot of cars. And one other thing, we have the Speaker of the House with us who's doing a fantastic job. And where's Mike? And we're trying to get approved. Mike, thank you very much for being here. We're trying to get approved, if we can. If you borrow money to buy a car, you're allowed to deduct interest payments for purposes of income tax, but only if the car is made in America. So if the car is made in America, you get a loan.
That's a great idea.
Deduct the interest. That's a big saving. a lot of people in that part of the world in terms of buying cars. A lot of them don't think in terms of deductions. People that think in terms of deductions are very wealthy people, but people are going to start understanding what a good deduction is all about. So when you get a loan to buy a car, and I think it's going to pay for itself. I don't think there's any cost. I think you're going to have so many cars built, but you're only going to get that deduction of interest if the car is made in the United States of America. So I'm going to sign this, and Mike, I hope you can get that, because I think it's going to be amazing in terms of the number of cars that will be made because of it. And I want to thank Howard Lutnick, our fabulous commerce chairman. That's what he is. He's a chairman. He's a very successful guy, a great guy. And we have a big day, Howard, coming up next week. It's going to be good. That's Liberation Day. That's going to be on the 2nd, and that's going to be reciprocal. And I think people will be impressed. We're going to be very fair. We're going to be very nice, actually. We have not been treated nicely by other countries, but we're going to be nice. So I think people will be pleasantly surprised, but it's going to make our country very rich, because we're the piggy bank that everybody steals from, and they've been doing it for many years, for decades, so we're not going to let it happen. So, but we're going to treat people very nicely. We're going to treat other countries very, very nicely, and I think it's going to have a very positive effect on everybody, including those other countries. So I'll sign this, and we will see you again on April the 2nd. In terms of this, it's going to be another round, and it's about making America great again, making it strong and prosperous again. Thank you very much.
So, my daughter,
Okay, so President Trump there signing this 25% import tariff on foreign-made cars. We're going to get at this. We're going to get to some of the Q&A from the president a little bit later on. He not only took questions, of course, about some of these tariffs, but also.
Before we get back, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these great deodorants that are dual purpose. Use it as a deodorant, but it'll also help to detoxify your body. It's made from essential oils from the Himalayas. You can get it in citrus or in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree. They're for males and females. It's a dual purpose product. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. It has no aluminum. These bars have no aluminum. It has no baking soda, made from essential oils from the Himalayas, all natural. Very high quality deodorants. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get a few bars for your household. Getting a good probiotic is very important for a baseline for your health. So you can get the probiotics on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, in veggie cap form or in powdered form. I prefer the powdered form because I take a bunch of powders and mix it in my lunch. But taking a good probiotic is going to help bring down inflammation in your gut, allow you to absorb your nutrients better. It'll produce a better communication between your gut and your liver, and your gut and your brain. You'll be able to sleep better. You'll be less irritable. And having a better gut biome will also improve your skin, your hair, and your nails. Improving your gut biome is also going to improve your immune system. The mucosal lining within your gut will be thicker. You'll have a better population of proper microbes, and your IgAs will be at a higher concentration, so your immune system will be better. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the probiotics.
There's really three groups that are going to be happy for these tariffs, particularly the auto tariffs. First are domestic producers, because with tariffs they get a lot of competition eliminated. They don't have to compete against foreign firms. They don't have to innovate. They don't have to lower their prices. They don't have to accommodate consumer preferences the way they do when they're competing against foreign goods. And a lot of the same could be said for unions. They want to protect, right?
First of all, that's BS. You know the reason why? Because there's a lot of foreign OEMs, automakers, that are making their product in the United States. So the U.S. automakers, meaning GM and Ford, have to compete with Toyota or Daimler or Audi because they're making their products here too. That's an old 1970s philosophy.
In recent memory, has it?
I mean, the only thing that comes close in my mind would be Smoot-Hawley back in 1930, which actually was one of the causes of the Great Depression. I mean, that was tariffs on a whole host of foreign goods at a very high level. I'm not saying this is going to cause a depression or recession, but I mean, I think these are the most sprawling and the highest tariffs that have been put on in some time. I mean, that's one reason why there's so much nervousness about it, because we haven't seen this really with an economy as big as the U.S. and on the other side, for example, an economy as large as China in the modern world, in the modern financialized, service-oriented, economies that we have today.
So, Peter, you and I have kind of discussed so much back and forth about, what is the operative definition of a tariff in the Trump administration? What does it mean? What are its impacts here?
Right,
with these today, I mean, do you anticipate that domestic car producers and manufacturers, are they going to feel it at all? If I'm looking for a car on the dealership lot, will the price go up because of what happened today, or no? Will it be mitigated in some fashion?
So I think two things are going to happen. First, the price of a foreign car is going to be out of reach pretty soon. I've seen estimates of domestic foreign car prices going up as much as $12,000 based upon these tariffs. So it probably won't be that much, but we're going to see some kind of a jump in those prices. The other thing is that domestic cars may also see a rise in prices because of the retaliatory tariffs that are almost certain to come. I mean, just earlier I was watching some headlines go by, and the Premier of Ontario said that their goal now is to inflict maximum pain trade-wise on the U.S. So, the U.S. gets a lot of car parts from Canada, a lot of the inputs that go into making cars. So maybe the end price won't rise, but the cost of producing a car, the cost of the inputs is likely to go up, and that will eventually mean higher sticker prices. So I think there's going to be a very small window for prices to maybe stay where they are, but we're going to see, the longer this goes on for, the more likely we're going to see higher prices and some other knock-on effects, some of which we can't even anticipate at this time.
Okay, but if you're GM and Stellantis and Ford here, and you hear this announcement today, how is that going to change their bottom line?
So all of those stocks are down 4 to 6% right now on the anticipated retaliatory tariffs. They might see a brief burst of activity because there are some consumers out there who said, well, I was going to buy a Toyota, but instead I'm going to buy some other domestically made car. But I think that, with the kind of language we're hearing coming out of some of our trading partners, they're going to immediately slap tariffs on U.S. U.S. autos that are being exported, and on any car parts that they're exporting to the U.S. So the retaliation always comes swift. There's never been a trade war in the history of the world where you haven't had retaliation. It always goes two ways. The question is, how long does it go on for? And does the U.S. have as big an economy as, do we have as big a diversified economy that we need to sort of ride out the waves in the short term?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, I mean, this is kind of a rhetorical question, but are trade wars ever won? Is that too open? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to some extent, I guess if it turns out that Trump can extract terms as a result of these tariffs, I guess you would say that. But I mean, for consumers, no, you're going to suffer in terms of price. You're going to suffer in terms of choice. And I tend to think that the best market is that which is the less fettered, that we people trade voluntarily, but to the extent that one party believes that a trade deficit represents a theft, and they want to sort of rig the market and say, I want this country to buy more or to pay higher prices, I guess that's a win in a political sense, but economically, there's a lot of deadweight loss. There's a lot of opportunity cost. So I would say politically, yes, economically, no.
So from the Trump administration, I mean, this is their view that this move today would essentially shore up domestic production of cars here. That car manufacturers here would just make more cars now. Now that is a long-term project. You don't see that overnight here. You have to shift production. You heard President Trump all the time saying that with these actions, we're going to see production move back to the United States. It doesn't happen overnight here, but do you anticipate we could see some of that? I mean, are the intended effects going to be borne out?
So this whole idea of moving manufacturing and heavy industry back to the U.S. This is a multi-generational thing if it happens. Yes, there are some companies that are going to move certain types of manufacturing back to the U.S. We've seen some of that already. It's going to be that kind of manufacturing which is not very labor dependent because labor costs are very different. That's a major difference between producing here and the rest of the world. Some of it will come back, but this idea that we're suddenly going to have all these huge manufacturing plants in Vietnam moving to Ohio again, that's very unlikely. There's two ways to look at this, right? The first is that trade's voluntary, and so what if the U.S. buys $1 trillion worth of goods from China, and we only sell $900 billion to them? A trade deficit is simply a result of different stages of development and different specialization and all that. That's one way to look at it. The other is that difference is a theft and needs to be remedied. And that's certainly the way the Trump administration looks at it. But I mean, if you think about your own relationship with a grocery store, right? I mean, I have a 100% trade deficit. I only buy from them, right? I've never sold anything in the supermarket,
right,
but my current account is full of food. So, I mean, it's very different views.
So Trump has already placed, just to kind of go through the Trump tariff regime.
That's an idiotic way of looking at it, because the thing is that it's not talking about economic clustering, and you're looking at an individual purchase versus the whole country at a nationwide level. And when you move your manufacturing to another country at a low cost, what's going to happen is that you're going to lose innovation, and you're going to lose that economic clustering that industry allows to happen to build a middle class. So his example is idiotic. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the magnesium and zinc. This is going to help to boost up your immune system. Also get vitamin C plus magnesium. This will boost up your immune system. If you're not feeling well, take a double dose, drink it with filtered water. For the zinc, if you're going to be taking a double dose because you're not feeling well, take it in the morning, 1 dose in the morning and another dose in the evening. With vitamin C, you can take the double dose together. Make sure you drink it with filtered water. You can stack these together, perfect way to boost up your immune system. Use discount 5 and you get $5 off. Another great thing that I have are structural nanosilver drops and lozenges. The drops, you get 100 in each bag. You can get in cherry, honey and lemon, and also in blueberry. Now, these drops are made from structural nanosilver. Right when you have that irritation in your throat, take them right away. Have them available at work or at home, because you never know when you need them, especially during the allergy season or the cold season. The allergy season is coming up. The lozenges are larger, and you get 21 in each bag. You can get it in Manuka honey and also in elderberry zinc. Very high quality. Right when you have that irritation, take the lozenges or the drops, get a few bags for your household, be prepared. Have some at work, have some at home. You never know when you need it. It's really important. So please go to my store, use discount 5 and you get $5 off. All right, what I want to do is I want to go to the interview that Fox News had with Newt Gingrich.
So support for President Trump is so high that even fake news CNN, our old friends over there, they can't ignore it. Earlier today, CNN senior data reporter enthusiastically explained that Americans who believe the country is on the right track is surging under President Trump. Take a look.
Let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Maris, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Maris has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for reelection, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is reelected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost, the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country's on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track. In case you miss it, up high, that's high. Anyways, no surprise, Americans are feeling this way. President Trump continues to deliver for you, the American people. Just take a look at all of these new investments, the U.S. That have come into the U.S. since Donald Trump took office. This is a massive amount.
And according to a new report, India now considering slashing their tariffs on $23 billion worth of U.S. imports to save itself from Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs expected to start on April the 2nd. Here now with reaction, Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. I'm going to put that scroll up again. Hyundai, Apple, NVIDIA, SoftBank, the Taiwan Semiconductor, Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly, Merck, and you've got foreign country investments. It's over $3 trillion, Mr. Speaker. $3 trillion. Is it not all because Donald Trump negotiated by using the threat of tariffs? Are people that dumb that they don't understand this, man, after 10 years?
Well, people on the left are committed to a different world, so they can't understand him. Everybody else does understand him, and that's why he has so much support. Remember, it's a combination of two big things. One, the tariffs will make it more expensive to manufacture outside the United States and less expensive to manufacture inside the United States. And two, if we get the one big, beautiful bill that President Trump and Speaker Johnson have been working towards, and which now Senate Majority Leader Thune agrees on, if we get that tax cut, the deregulation, the energy bill, all those things would get done in May or at the latest early June, then you've got a double whammy. You have, it's going to be much less expensive to build in the U.S. You're going to get to keep more of your money if you build in the U.S. I mean, they've made some proposals which go all the way back to January 20th. They're saying retroactively, they want to give you, for example, 100% deductibility if you build a factory. And we've never had that bias in favor of manufacturing before. And there are a series of those things coming down the road, all of them designed to create jobs in America and to increase the supply so much that if you combine that with cuts in government spending and elimination of waste, you're almost certainly going to see a significant drop in inflation.
And then the president, the majority of these tax cuts that hopefully will be made permanent, which I think should be part of any bill, and then no tax on tips, Social Security, or overtime, and factor in energy dominance. What do you say to those that are skittish on Wall Street just over the talk of tariffs that has resulted in $3 trillion worth of committed money to be spent in the country?
I would say they ought to study history. You know, I went back recently after Chris and I were there for the inauguration, and I thought it was a remarkably powerful speech. So I went back and read some other inauguration speeches. In Jefferson's second inaugural in 1805, he says he's very proud that we have no internal revenue agents because all the government's money comes from tariffs. Now, that, frankly, I didn't know about till I went back and read it. McKinley, of course, made his entire career on a simple premise. We're going to raise tariffs. We're going to raise salaries. We're going to make it so desirable to manufacture in the U.S. In a very short period, from 1860 to 1910, we became the largest economy in the world, and the tariff policy was part of it. But there's one other thing, which, Sean, you know well, because you know President Trump awfully well. He likes to negotiate. He knows we're the largest market. He knows in one-on-one negotiations, he has all the cards. And so tariffs for him are a remarkably useful tool to get people to think differently about what they were about to do. And we're seeing that happen everywhere.
I might gently disagree with your characterization. Likes to negotiate, he never stops negotiating. And that seems to be the piece of the puzzle that people that don't like him don't ever want to understand. They don't want to understand him. You know, the only comparisons I ever hear historically is Smoot Hawley, it's not going to work out, Great Depression. And I'm like, do you not see what's happening? That's $3 trillion is a lot of money because one president threatened tariffs.
Okay, I accept your modification. Let me just say that Trump lives to negotiate, and it is a key part of his personality. But in addition, if you study history beyond the liberal lessons of the last 60 years in the Roosevelt era, the fact is, prior to 1932, a high tariff policy worked. It worked for America. It made us the most powerful country in the world, and it can work again. And the $3 trillion you're talking about is a pretty good start.
I hope people will listen to the last speaker of the House.
We need the tariffs to bring back manufacturing so our economic clustering will be better. It's that simple. Please, and not only that, younger people will be able to get very high paying jobs. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the structural and nano silver toothpaste that I offer. This is the best toothpaste that you can buy. It has no fluoride. It will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help with your gum line, reduce inflammation, improve your oral hygiene. And with good oral hygiene, you're reducing the problems with vascular issues or valvular issues. So it's really important to use a very high quality toothpaste. This is the best toothpaste that you can buy. Now, get a few tubes for your household, help support my work, and help support your health and wellness. Now, the third pillar of that core that I was talking about earlier, max 35 or max 14 for the first pillar to boost up your immune system, C60 to bring down free radicals. The third pillar is ashwagandha, turmeric, and lignans. That will bring down inflammation and help with your immune system. So the turmeric is an antioxidant, so it's going to soak up free radicals, and it's also going to bring down inflammation. That's good for your vascular system and your immune system. Ashwagandha is going to help control your blood glucose levels and your cortisol levels. That's important to bring down inflammation, and that's good for your immune system and your vascular system. Stack these together, and this is a great combo to help with your vascular health, because if you have too much inflammation at the vascular level, you're going to build up more plaque. And if you have chronic inflammation, your immune system is suppressed. So you don't want that. So take the turmeric and the ashwagandha, take these together, and guess what? It's a dual purpose stack. Helps with your immune system and your cardiovascular system. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. Get the stack, use discount 5, and you get $5 off. I have X spaces open if you would like to ask a question live about what's going on in the news or give me your opinion. This is an interactive show. Please go to the X spaces and ask questions. All right, let's go to Al Jazeera. They're talking about the Yemen chat week.
Information about this issue, can you share me your intelligence and that kind of thing. So there is still an element of transaction about that kind of relationship, and I think going forward people will be concerned about the security of sharing information with particularly senior political leadership in the US. You'll still have ongoing structural lower level cooperation that can function, but I think people will be sensitive about the potential security threat that this represents.
What do you think of the idea, Glenn, that allies are going to start thinking the US can't be trusted, given this comes at a time when Trump seems to be, his treatment of Zelensky in Ukraine, many have remarked on, and he seems to be sharing very favorable views of Putin and Russia?
Well, sadly, more than sadly, tragically and terrifyingly, I've been saying publicly for a decade that the rise of the MAGA Trump phenomenon, Donald Trump and now his minions, is an existential issue for the U.S. government, and it poses terrible problems for our allies. And that if I were a foreign intelligence service allied to the United States, I would not share my most sensitive sources and methods. Because the alarms are so clear about the risk to the security of information that you can't take that risk. It's a terrible, terrible thing for an American intelligence officer to say that one can't trust the top of the United States government to protect the sources, methods, and procedures and so on of an ally. But if I were the British, you never, in an intelligence world, you never trust anybody, even your closest allies. And when the signs are so glaring and so numerous of the risk of compromise and the danger to one's own national security, I would be I would not give the family jewels.
So PJ, on that bigger picture, quickly, Jamie, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to come in response to the question about European allies. I think what's sort of bemused the Europeans a little bit is that countries that seem to have been targeted are the ones that have often been the US's staunchest allies. You know, you're thinking about Denmark had the highest attrition rate in Afghanistan among its soldiers. It was contributing to those operations. Canada's been a long-standing ally of the US. The UK has, and yet the UK wasn't immune to steel tariffs. They've gone on UK steel the same as everybody else. So there's, everybody in Europe, I guess, is a little bit bemused at the moment about how the US leadership is treating its allies and what this means for future.
Let me bring in PJ to wrap this up. How worried should Americans be about this bigger picture about the way this administration is conducting business?
I think it is about the big picture. We can argue about technical details of inside the national security process, but the bigger picture where you have the senior-most officials within the Trump administration, calling the Europeans pathetic, and in suggesting, for example, that the U.S. strike was not really about American interest, even though we live in a global world. It was about the narrow interest of the Europeans, they should pay for protection. What we're seeing here is the dismantling of the transatlantic relationship. It is among the most valuable elements that the United States has in its national security arsenal. The Trump administration is dismantling it, and the ultimate winners are Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and others. They're probably pinching themselves. They can't believe how fortunate they are to have the Trump administration back in office.
PJ, thank you very much. Sometimes I would like this program to be an hour long. It's not, though. Thanks to our guests, Glenn Carl, Jamie Gaskarth, and PJ Crowley. A fascinating discussion. If you missed any of it, don't worry. You can go back and watch it again anytime you want on our website, aljazeera.com. As ever, your comments are welcome. Post them on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. Or on X, you can find us at AJ Inside Story. From the team here in Doha and from me, James Bays, please stay safe and well. Bye-bye for now.
All right, what I'd like to do is probably Atlantic Editor-in-Chief calls Trump administration's response to signal debacle. All right, that's too long. That's 19 minutes. I don't want to go through that. This is MSNBC's response to this signal gate.
So you have seen spin from all sorts of people, from every administration, trying to explain things that are controversial. What do you make of their efforts in this moment?
Well, they're ridiculous. They're transparently nonsense. Like you heard from Mike Waltz there. Oh, do you ever have somebody's name in your phone and another person's phone number? What's he even talking about?
He also said that he wants Elon Musk to look into the best tech experts to help. It's like, let me explain to you how Signal works. You have to hand enter each person in to form a group chat. But anyway, continue.
And they're trying to make this distinction: attack plan, war plan. Also ridiculous. And I do think that's one of the reasons why this makes this dangerous for Trump is you got the National Review, you got several senators now speaking up, perhaps feeling a little guilty of having voted to confirm Pete Hegseth. But this is a case where the incompetence and the dishonesty are now so obvious and so many people are being made aware of it. I think this is damaging for him. They normally brazen their way through because Republican media will take the spin and run with it and say, oh, well, it's Jeff Goldberg's fault. But I think that's not sufficient now. And Donald Trump himself, for all his blustering about the press, he follows the mainstream media. And I think he has a sense of when he's being embarrassed I think he knows he's being embarrassed right now.
I think that's pretty clear because he's trying to kind of move away from this. He did do a podcast this morning. I think it was this morning. I just want to play that because I want to get your thoughts on that. It's very consistent with what you just said.
It's something that is not a big deal, other than you want to find out who did it and how they did it, because you don't want to happen, in the future. You can have that happen.
Now, we don't really know like how they did it and who did it, but all the reporting suggests that his focus is really on this. How did Jeffrey Goldberg get on there? And did Michael Waltz have his contact in his phone? That is not an important issue. I mean, I do wonder about that, but the important question any president, as I said earlier, would be asking, I think, is why is my national security team having these sensitive conversations? What does Trump's answer tell you?
Well, Donald Trump cares exclusively about himself. And so the idea that there was a risk associated with the way this went down and that, there was a danger that our pilots could get shot down, that kind of thing, that doesn't really register with him. Mm-hmm. What registers with him is bad press and things that hurt Donald Trump. And I think,
this spin by MSNBC is completely biased. There is no possible way that our pilots would have been shot down because of that conversation on Signal. No possible way. First, it's encrypted. So the only way that would have been able to get out to the Houthis is that if someone in the group passed it on to them. That's the only way. And that group is either 19 people or 29 people. I don't remember the actual number. I remember seeing a 9 on the report, but I'm not sure if it was a 1-9 or a 2-9. So either 19 people or 29 people were in that group. I think it was 19. All right. And that all of them were principals except one, government principals for this operation, except one. And that was the Atlantic reporter by accident. All right. There is no way that this particular operation was compromised. Where's the proof that it was compromised? Where information would have gone to the Houthis? There is no evidence of that. So they're making statements they don't even. Now, I'd like to know how did that reporter get on the list? Because it's a government issued phone or device and government approved for communication app. No, but they'll try to spin it, where it was Trump's fault.
Well, Haggard there, and I think he knows he's and his team have really stepped in it.
He also typically gets support from the right-wing media. It's not universal right now. We'll see what happens.
Well, let me get this straight. And the liberal biased media wasn't supporting Biden and his decline, his obvious mental decline. It's so. These people, are they literally? Do they believe the stuff they say? Or are they just living in a totally different universe? I mean, they must not believe what they're actually saying if they're living in our universe. But if they're living in a different universe, maybe they're just an alternate reality. But I mean, how could she make that statement? Well, the conservative media is supporting Trump, and the liberal biased media was supporting a almost brain dead president, aka Biden, and trying to convince the American public that Harris was really winning in the polls and that she was really an intelligent individual and that Biden had all of his cognitive function. Both are BS.
Downplaying it too. So I think it's interesting.
Maybe he manually put a phone number in, and it was the wrong phone number.
And happened to be that journalist.
The outrage from the left over a reporter accidentally being added, a one-off, one-time, minor accident. Yeah, he read some things he probably shouldn't have. It was an accident. Accidents happen when you're taking action.
They're trying real hard there. What do you think?
Well, they are, as they usually do, manning the battle stations, but they're really undercut when you see the National Review saying Pete Hicks that thought he'd get fired. The Wall Street Journal editorial page also chastised the administration today. So I think they look a little silly trying to do that. And they're also not addressing, as you indicated earlier, the real threat, which is they're exchanging classified information on a commercial app. And it is the kind of thing that I can't imagine any other White House that.
But it's approved. It's government approved app to use for communication on government issued devices. The bigger question is, how did that reporter get on the list? According to Waltz, it looked like the actual name wasn't the name of the reporter. It was his phone number. So how did that happen? So it looks like a mistake. But to say it was classified, he doesn't know if it was classified or not. Pete Hegseth has authority to classify. So if he wanted to get on the phone and call CNN while the operation was happening and say, CNN, our planes are over Yemen and they're about ready to do their strike, and it's an F-16 and Warhawk, and whatever. All right, and this type of munitions that we're going to use, and it's going to strike in about 5 minutes. He can do that, and it's totally legal. You know why? Because he can make a decision if it's classified or not.
Covered. Apart from Trump's, because they are uniquely, especially in the second term, uniquely incompetent. But George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, no, this would never happen.
You know why it would never happen? Because they didn't have the technology. They didn't have apps. Last time I looked, George Bush Sr. or Jr., there weren't apps on a cell phone. Okay, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Clarity Factor and the multivitamin as a stack. Let me tell you why. Okay, this is a great way to start on your journey of health and wellness and proper supplementation. Clarity Factor is going to get rid of that brain fog. It's going to allow your neurons to fire better, and with neurons firing better and you being able to think clearly, you're going to help support your memory, building up your memory. And when those neurons are firing, you're going to have better neuroplasticity. You're going to have a positive neuroplasticity is what I call it. And that means that you'll be able to think faster. You're going to have better memory. And not just that, with just a better cognitive function and you're reducing stress, you'll actually sleep better. So it's really important to improve your neural function and support your memory by taking Clarity Factor. And this gets rid of that brain fog. Take this once a day or twice a day. Some people take it in the morning and mid-afternoon. Some people just take it in the mid-afternoon. It's up to you. But this is a great way to focus on work, on school, and even if you're retired, to just keep those neurons firing and focused. Gets rid of that brain fog. Drink it with filtered water. Make sure all the water that you drink is filtered. Take the Clarity Factor and improve your neural health. And you need a good multivitamin that's easy to digest. The multivitamin that I offer on my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, is easy to digest. It has a great base of vitamins to build that foundation that you can add stuff to your protocol and slow down the aging process, increase that longevity and vitality. All right, so take this multivitamin. Multivitamins and minerals are really important as cofactors for enzymatic activity. When you have the proper concentrations of these
So the one thing that President Trump said that doesn't happen in the automotive space is quickly. And nothing is quick in the automotive space. We're talking about planning today for vehicles that won't start for 3 years from today. So this idea that even if it was on the paper of, yes, we're going to move manufacturing here, yes, we're going to bring our plants in the U.S. to 100% utilization, yes, we're going to move stuff from other countries here, that is never an overnight proposition. It is billions of dollars and time consuming. So there's got to be some, hopefully some grace period in this process. We don't really see a winner in the short term. It is going to be painful. There are manufacturers that have high inventory right now. They're going to use that as their advantage to move that inventory, which then the tariff will necessarily push onto it. There are some loopholes in the executive order we're trying to diagnose. No one really talks about the supplier enough. And when he talked about it at the White House today, he only mentioned about sales of cars. But when you read the executive order, parts are in play. But there is still USMCA in play, and there's some leeway if certain parts will be satisfied by USMCA guidelines of 75% content in North America. So there's still a little gray area right this second in the language that we see, but it seems to be on purpose. It seems to be aggressive, and I think we are going to have at least 2 weeks, if not a month. He said he's not going to dial them back, so we're going to see how this all plays out.
Right, I'm looking at a chart, and I know we can bring that up just for context to our viewers. Vehicle imports as a percentage of sales in the U.S. In 2019 stood at 53%. In 2024 stood at 53.4%. So it's not like it's changing a whole lot. Like there is a certain market for certain products, certain car makers, and the mix has not changed much in the last 5 years, 6 years actually.
Yeah, I mean, look, what a 25% tariff is the chicken tax has been around for 60 years. It basically said it locked up Detroit 3 for owning the truck market. You couldn't import any kind of truck to North America without a 25% tariff. And that has been seen as a success to building the Detroit 3's existence because, the United States is the only country in the world and region of the world, North America, that's really consuming pickup trucks and large SUVs. No other market does this. So we need that product. So this view is, well, if we keep doing that, then we're going to constantly strengthen our local brands. But to your point, there is a vast balance of consumers out there. They want entry-level vehicles. They want crossovers. They want SUVs. They want pickup trucks. Not one brand or 2 or even 3 brands in North America can satisfy that goal. And there is a consumer need for it. It is a global economy. It is a globally integrated supply chain. And again, no one's talking about the suppliers. Without the suppliers, cars don't exist. So you might build a car here, but if you're getting your powertrains from Europe, that price of that vehicle is going to go up.
How do you think you?
All right. What I want to do is I want to pivot over to what happened with 23andMe bankruptcy. All right. Now, people that don't know what 23andMe is, it's a DNA analysis company. It was owned by the billionaire that owns Virgin Atlantic, Bronson, I think it's Bronson. And 23andMe is basically defunct. All right. Now, the problem comes in is who owns the data? All right. If they get bought out, because you give a sample of your DNA and they sequence it and they tell you stuff like where are you from, certain types of genetic disorders, potentially all this stuff. So let's play this video here about their bankruptcy.
Well, there are a lot of questions about data privacy after the company 23andMe filed for bankruptcy, the company known for its saliva-based DNA testing kits. Millions of customers have used the service, hoping to learn more about their ancestry. And tonight, Attorney General of Georgia, Chris Carr, is warning us that data could be sold or even transferred. Our 11 Alive consumer investigative reporter Eliza Lucas spoke with experts about what, if any, steps you should take now.
23andMe says the bankruptcy filing will not change the way it stores or protects data, but the company's bankruptcy status also means information is set to be sold, and that has sparked alarm among privacy experts and advocates. So we asked Jessica Roberts, a professor of law, artificial intelligence, and data science at the Emory University School of Law, to weigh in.
Even though 23andMe assures everyone that it's going to keep its privacy policy in terms of service intact, there are unilateral amendment clauses that allow companies to change their terms without asking or even sometimes notifying their customers. And so once that data gets transferred to a different company, then that company could take it upon itself to shift the terms, and users might find their.
Why do you need a lawyer to tell you that? That is basic business law that you can get, oh, by the way, on ChatGPT. You don't need a fucking lawyer to tell you that. If you're giving your data to a company and they go bankrupt and someone buys them, guess who owns the property, the data? Not you. You never owned it. It's the company. So the CCP can fucking buy it, and guess what? Now they got your DNA. Wonderful. This is the reason why you should have never played around with the DNA, these DNA things for, well, where are you from, your ancestry and all that. That was just the little teaser to get you to get into the system. Now, genetic sequencing for diseases, because you actually have an ailment and you need to try to figure out what the problem is, that's important, all right? But there is a serious issue in terms of you don't own the data when they sequence it. You don't. You give a sample and they sequence, you don't own the data. Now, there are millions of people through 23andMe where their DNA could potentially be used for bioweapon purposes.
Or other interests compromised.
Robert says it may surprise people that the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, or HIPAA, does not apply in this case. The federal law protects sensitive health information from being disclosed without your consent within covered entities like doctors' offices and insurance companies. While some states do have their own data privacy laws, Robert says those can vary. And right now, attorneys general from California to Florida are issuing consumer alerts, encouraging 23andMe users to proactively protect their data by deleting your account. The process is easy. Go to your profile, then settings, and scroll all the way down to 23andMe. There you can request your data be deleted. You can also request your test sample be destroyed or revoke permission for your genetic data to be used for research. Robert says the situation is ultimately a reminder to be wary.
Many health technology companies, not just consumer genetics companies, have this ability to change their terms of service and their privacy policies on a whim. And so what it says today, it may not say tomorrow.
Robert says the flexibility of these agreements is something to keep in mind when deciding whether or not to use these services in the future.
23andMe has said it hopes to secure a partner who shares its commitment to customer data privacy.
Good luck with finding that. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and try this stack that I'm going to tell you. This helps with your bone health. Sorry about that interruption. This is a professional show. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and do this stack that I'm going to show you. This helps with bone health and cardiovascular health. Taking D3 is going to help you absorb calcium. It also is a very important gene expression cofactor for proper gene expression. And D3 helps to get rid of cells that need to go into apoptosis. D3 stacks really well with K2, the MK7 molecule that helps with cardiovascular health. and it will help with bone health. For the cardiovascular stack, what it will do is it's going to reduce the amount of calcium that's deposited around plaque, and also over time slowly pull some of that calcium deposits out from that plaque formation. So taking this regularly is going to help with your cardiovascular health. But if you're taking calcium as a supplement or drinking milk and you're doing resistance training and taking D3 and K2 together, you're going to help to build more dense bone. Really important, especially for people that are older, males and females. So do resistance training, take the K2 and the D3 together, and that's going to help with your bone density, but also your cardiovascular health. To add to the cardiovascular health stack, take the nattokinase. That's fibrinolytic, so it's going to break up clots, but also nattokinase will help to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. That means that your total cholesterol is going to improve. And what that means is that if you have less LDL gets oxidized, and less oxidized LDL less LDL will mean less plaque formation. So by taking nattokinase, having a proper diet, a proper exercise, stacking with the proper supplementation, you're reducing the chances of building up plaque. All right, so please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the D3, the K2, and the nattokinase. This is a stack. It's a multi-purpose stack where it's going to help with your bone density and your cardiovascular health. Now, a lot of people don't know that if you have a lot of blockage, you get turbulent flow of your blood and leads to clot formation. So this is going to help you by breaking up those clots because it's fibrinolytic. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the D3, get the K2, MK7 molecule, and the nattokinase. Stack them together, use discount 5, and you're helping your cardiovascular health and your bone health. All right, let's go back to live now.
House Intelligence, he said today, we should be so lucky we're not mourning dead pilots. Is that overwrought? Is that hyperbolic? Or would you make the same assertion?
Yeah.
Well, I would say that there's a military value, and that's a little bit hyperbolic, a little bit overwrought, but that is the end state of this is if they get it, if they take defensive action, and if it results in them hitting an aircraft, yes, that would be the end state. But now, with that said, a couple things. Number one, that is not top secret information.
It's not top secret information. Pete Hegseth can classify it as secret or not. It's up to him. And same thing with the president. And oh, by the way, the mission was accomplished with flying colors. And not just that. The people that were in the group chat, none of this information went to the Houthis, assuming that the Atlantic reporter doesn't work for the Houthis too. I mean, come on. They're trying to make something out of nothing.
Did talk about weapon systems, did talk about timing, did talk about when they launched, did talk about when they were hitting. So that was out there. So there is things that I would say from an intelligence standpoint as
all right, let's read this, okay? All right, time now 11:44. Weather is favorable, just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch. There's no that's generic. There's no details there in that sense. Next piece of this. All right, 12:15. F-18s launch first strike package. What's the strike package? Doesn't mention it. So there's no details. It's generic. 13:45. Trigger-based F-18 first strike window starts. Target terrorists is at his known location, should be on time. Doesn't state the GPS. So it's generic. Also, strike drones launch MQ-9s. Generic, doesn't give details. 11-10, more F-18s launch. Second strike package. What's the strike package? Doesn't say. Not enough detail. It's generic. This is what they mean. It's not the war plan. The war plan would say how many munitions, what were the targets, what were the GPSs. Doesn't say any of that bullshit. 14-15, strike drones on target. This is when, what were the targets? Doesn't state. That's in the strike package. That's not revealed in the chat. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop, pending earlier trigger-based targets. It's generic. So when they say that the war plan or the strike package wasn't revealed, that's a true statement. Everything that's in here is generic. And then the last statement was 1536, F-18 second strike starts. Also first sea-based Tomahawks launched. Okay, where? Which ship? How many? Doesn't state it. The strike package would have that. They know what that is. They didn't reveal anything. It was all generic. And so you got the mainstream media making something out of nothing. You can read it for yourself. What's the details? Just because they say how many F-15s or F-18s, I mean. How many Tomahawks? How many ships? How many missiles? What are the GPS coordinates? Doesn't mention.
And obviously, some of this could have only been gleaned via classified communications. I can't.
Right, because it's end-to-end encryption. And not just that, even if the Houthis, which they didn't, but even if they saw this chain, they wouldn't know what the fuck hit them. They wouldn't know. If you read that chain, how would you know what is going on? You would know that something's going to happen, but you don't know where. You don't know when. It's all generic.
Talk about it.
So I want to focus on this part of this message. At 14:15, he says, this is when the first bombs will definitely drop. At 13:45, he says, target terrorist is at his known location, so should be on time. Now, Barbara Starr, the longtime former Pentagon correspondent for CNN, Hal, she says this: Walls revealed in extraordinary detail when he said there was intel showing the top Houthi missile guy walked into a building. She says you only know that if you have overhead surveillance, communications intercepts, or an operative.
So what? So what? You think that the Houthis didn't know that we had satellite imagery following people? You just have to go to Tom Clancy's novels and watch the movies and know that. I mean, come on, get real. Or what about when we had live stream of when we hunted down bin Laden? All right, so he's pulling out that it will definitely drop. So he's picking up the 14-15. Strike drones on target. What target? What's the GPS? Doesn't say. This is when the first drones will definitely drop. When? Doesn't say. Pending earlier trigger-based targets. So it doesn't give you the details. So even if this was given to the Houthis, what the hell are they? By the time they read it in English, you really think that they're going to know what the hell is going to happen? Because even an American couldn't tell you, what exactly does this mean? It doesn't have enough detail. And this is the reason why the Trump administration is saying this wasn't classified information. What is classified information was the actual strike package. This is not the strike package. The strike package is GPS, estimated times, how many F-18s, and what's the naval support, how many Tomahawks, what's the location. That's the strike package. This is not the strike package. But what you got is a bunch of dumbasses in America that think that you read something generic and that you know the plan. You really know the plan by reading that? Really? You really understand what Pete Hegseth was doing during the strike on the Houthis by reading this? No, you don't know where, you don't know how much. These strike packages not only tell you what the amount is, but what the contingency plans are. And not only that, what the cost would be estimated to be. Is that in there, too? No. So obviously what the Trump administration said was truthful. There's nothing in the list that is actually classified. Or even if it's unclassified, having enough granularity where your enemy would be able to know what's happening. Other than that, you're going to get bombed. But the Trump administration's been telegraphing that for a while. And of course, you have people that are mainstream media that aren't smart enough to dissect just 5 lines of that chat like how I just did. It's very self-evident. And even this clown isn't even interpreting it right.
Also, she says today, DNI Gabbard testified under oath that information about attack plans by the U.S. or its allies should be classified as top secret. Hegseth has said the contents of the messages, which included launch times and attack sequencing, was not classified. POTUS is now planning to ask Hegseth for a classification.
Strike times that were generic.
Review. Trump saying, sure, I'll ask him. I certainly asked him to take a look at it. Is that a good idea?
I think that's that's a very good idea. They should be looking at it. I think that's a pretty grave mistake in terms of operational security. That's putting potentially air crews, U.S. military personnel at risk, at higher risk. So that's pretty unambiguous that you don't put stuff like that out there, because this is an ongoing operation.
Yeah,
that would be kind of like saying, we got a special operations team on the ground and they're going out to take bad guys. Well, there's a special operations team on the ground. You don't let them know that they're out there. As we used to say, if you're running clandestine operations, it's kind of inferred that you want to keep them clandestine. Okay, and so that was a big mistake on his end to say that. But he does have that authority to declassify things, and that may eventually come up within the explanation. Now, I will say Tulsi Gabbard may have misspoke a little bit. The big war plans, and I just say this as someone, hey, I know the top secret, I don't know all of them, but I know that there are top secret war plans, all right? I know there's a lot of secret stuff. Everything I saw on there, with maybe Mike Waltz's comment about the girlfriend's house situation, that may have been from a top secret source, but everything else in there that was generic were what I would call secret level. Okay, at most, but I don't think everything needs to be top secret. That takes it up to a higher level. And by the way, and I would say some of those who are saying that this can only be said in the Situation Room or sensitive compartmented information facility or something like that. Again, I think they're over speaking the level of information and discourse there. That literally, everything I saw there, you could literally go into an office in the Pentagon that's not a SCIF and talk about that, because I've seen people do that all the time. They do it in government offices all the time.
And that was the
You just
whole.
make sure you're out of earshot. You try to
And
keep
that was the whole point of end-to-end encryption, so they can communicate on a government device using this approved app to do this communication. And that's what happened. Unfortunately, and no one knows exactly how this happened, was how did the Atlantic reporter get on the chat? No one really knows. We don't know if it was accidental or if there was some sort of nefarious activity that's going on. Who knows? But the thing is, There wasn't any top secret information that was leaked out to the Houthis, or even top secret information that was leaked out to even the reporter. This is generic information during an actual strike, military strike, but it's generic. There's no real strong detail. Do you think the reporter knew where the Houthis' girlfriend was? Which homestead she was living in? Or what her domicile was? I'm sure he didn't. What information in there actually gives the GPS coordinates, the number of munitions that are going to be used, ordnance, and all of the strike plan details? Do you think the Pentagon actually says on 14/15 we're gonna issue a strike with F-18s, but we're not going to say what kind of munitions they're going to use or what the GPS is? We're just going to send the plane over to Yemen and just bomb anything. Use whatever you want. Laser beams, dummy bombs, smart bombs, whatever you want. That's not how a strike plan works. A strike plan is very exact, and they know to the dollar how much it's going to cost.
Put those in another room or something. But I have seen stuff like that spoken about, and that's just where you use common sense. I've seen it on tarmacs of airfields, all sorts of stuff. So it's not quite.
Maybe we should use some common sense reading the chat to see that it's generic. But you got MSNBC and CNN saying we got to get rid of Pete Hegseth because he said something on Signal. It was classified. Meanwhile, CNN can't classify jack shit, but Pete Hegseth can classify whatever the hell he wants. Bullshit, that's what it is.
Story. He said it's very clear Goldberg oversold what he had.
Right.
One thing in particular really stands out. Van says, remember when he was attacking Ratcliffe for blowing the cover for a CIA agent? He says, turns out Ratcliffe was simply naming his chief of staff. Now, from what I understand from the article published today, Goldberg still did not divulge this person's name, but it turned out to be Ratcliffe's chief of staff there.
So a CIA staffer, chief of staff, is not an agent, a CIA agent. So Ratcliffe was over embellishing what was happening. I'm not Radcliffe. Radcliffe. Wait. Greenwald. Is it Greenwald? Yeah. The reporter, the Atlantic reporter, was over embellishing what exactly was on that chat, saying that a CIA agent, an operative. When someone says agent, that means CIA operative. All right. A CIA staffer, chief of staff, is not an agent. So the Atlantic reporter was over embellishing the issue. And you got all of these people in mainstream media making a mountain out of a anthill.
I mean, people who are working for us as sources of intelligence that could be put in harm's way simply because of association with that person whose name is now public. So that's why. And actually, I think Jeffrey Goldberg, he did the right thing. He went to all the different agencies, and CIA came back and said, "Hey, can you please leave his name out of this?" And they did that, and I thought that was a very responsible thing to do that. He did do the right thing.
Yeah, that's true. But he lied that he was a CIA agent. He's not a CIA agent. He's a staffer. He's not an operative. So he lied. He embellished to make it seem more important. And that the war plans leaked. The war plans weren't leaked. What was happening is you were actually seeing in the chat almost like a real time what was happening in generic form for the strike. But they didn't know what the strike package was. If someone asked the Atlantic reporter, what was the strike package? He couldn't tell you. You know why? Because it wasn't in the chat. He's over embellishing.
of the signal texts have led us to believe people should see the text in order to reach their own conclusions, and that is what everyone has been doing throughout the course of the day. Al, we're going to take a quick commercial break. There's one more story we want to get with you on, and it does refer tragically to the loss of 4 American soldiers in Lithuania amid some pretty murky, mysterious circumstances. We don't have a lot of details on this, so we'll be covering that story when we come back.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and don't be like these mainstream media types from the ultra-lib media that literally can't think, all right? What I want you to do is get the supplements that will help with your health, slow down the aging process, and you are gonna have more vitality and longevity. Now let's talk about a stack that is really important for your immune system, for your musculature, and for your cardiovascular health. Olive leaf extract is something that you should be taking every day. It will bring down inflammation. That's important for your vascular system and for your immune system. Olive leaf extract will also help with your lipid profile. So it's going to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. Really important. All right. When you're bringing down that LDL level, you're reducing the chance of building up plaque. Now, Myotrol is really important for building up muscle. Myotrol has flavonoids, polyphenols, and lignans to help gene expression to build muscle and maintain muscle and help with the health of the mitochondria. Really important. You need healthy mitochondria and you need to express the genes to be able to build muscle. When you get older, once you hit about age 40, you're going to start to atrophy. That's why it's important to do exercise and cardio, weight training, stretching, and balancing exercises. All 4 of those are important. But once you hit age 40, your gene expression, because when you get older, you're methylating your genes and you're turning them off, unfortunately. So the whole concept of the Myotrol is to help with the gene expression to build muscle and to maintain muscle. All right. You can also take Myotrol if you're an athlete, younger or older. Why? Because it will actually help with the gene expression and build the strength that you need for your sport. So if you are an athlete, younger or older, take Myotrol. But it's designed for people that are older that are not athletes to be able to maintain and build muscle to reduce that atrophy. All right. When you get older, your ATP goes down because your mitochondrial health goes down. When you get older, what happens is that your neuron health will go down and your cognitive function will start to decline. When you get older, your free radicals start to go up and you start to have stress in the cell, and those cells start to not function as well and they go into necrosis. All right. So literally, as you age, your body is building up free radicals. You're reducing ATP. Your mitochondrial health will start to diminish. You start getting more DNA damage, and you start to atrophy. You start losing muscle mass and bone density. Now, if you pay attention to what I've been saying with the stack, with the bone density, you can reverse that. If you pay attention with boosting up your ATPs by soaking up free radicals and improving the health of your mitochondria, you're going to have more energy to be able to work out and to have more vitality and to have the energy levels that you need at the neural level to be able to maintain these neural connections. Now, in terms of muscle, Myotrol is really important for that gene expression to build the muscle that you need. So if you want to slow down the aging process, you need to soak up those free radicals and take the proper supplementation to reverse some of this oxidation that's taking place, speed up that metabolism, improve those neural connections, build up that bone density and musculature. And when you do that, you are really improving your overall health. So a great way to do it is to take the Myotrol. All right. This stacks really well with gladiator barley because the gladiator barley is a high density protein, which is what will be the ingredients that your muscles will need to build up more muscle. And the Myotrol will help with the gene expression. It's really important for you to understand this. When you get older, you are methylating your genes And those methylated genes are turning off. And that's the aging. That's one of the mechanisms, the pathways for aging. And if you follow my protocol, we are slowing down that methylation process. And by slowing down that methylation process, you're getting decades to your life. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, get the Myotrol. And guess what? Stack it with the olive leaf extract. And this is a great way to build muscle, to improve your cardiovascular health, and to help with your immune system. It's a great stack. It's a very affordable, and you get 3 things out of this stack. Use discount 5 and get $5 off. It's all caps, discount, the number 5, $5 off. Get the Myotrol and get the olive leaf extract. All righty. Let's go to, I want to see if there's anything.
Do you know what's really fun? Check your website on.
I want to see if there's anything on CNA right here. CNA might be on commercial break.
And I'm an urban farmer.
No.
I spent the last 10 years studying the work.
I'm going to go to CNBC. They're talking about the quote war plans.
Is not sensitive government information. I simply don't know what is.
They know it's not war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information. You know who sees war plans?
You know, the amazing thing here is that if you actually read the text and not the talking heads on mainstream media, if you actually read the text, it's generic. It doesn't give you the munitions, doesn't give you GPS. Like he said, it doesn't give you the actual flight paths. You don't even know how many F-18s they had. You don't know how many Tomahawks that were in the strike package. You don't even know which ship it's being launched from, or ships. It's all generic. So it's not a strike package. All right, it's all generic. Now, the bigger question is, how did that Atlantic reporter get on the chat? Who knows? Is it just by accident? And if that's just by accident, what's the probability that a super Trump hater ends up getting on the chat versus, let's say, Hannity, right? So it's very strange, but it could be just on accident, and this is just just a weird coincidence. But if you actually read the text, it's generic. You cannot discern exactly what was going on. But they'll make an anthill, and they'll make a mole. They'll make Mount Fuji out of an anthill. It's amazing. It's amazing. I would like, any journalist from mainstream media to read that text and to show how it shows the strike package, the details of the strike package of what was going to be happening in Yemen. I'd like them to explain that. And not only that, why is it that the Atlantic reporter lying about the CIA agent when it was actually a chief of staffer? Now, a chief of staffer is not a CIA agent. He's not an operative. I mean, get real. So what it is the Atlantic wants to over-embellish to make it seem as bigger than what it really happened. I mean, literally, Pete Hegseth can pick up the phone and say, you know what, we're going to do a strike wherever. Maybe it's Gaza, or in this case, it was the Houthis, but wherever. He can literally call on the phone or do a FaceTime with CNN and say, this is what we're doing. Oh, I got F-18s flying right over right now. Oh, by the way, we're going to drop we're going to drop 4 dummy bombs and 3 smart bombs. Just wait. It's going to happen in 35 seconds. He can do that, and nothing can stop him. It's crazy. All right. All right. With that said, I want to just pivot over to CNA just to get a little take on what they're broadcasting in Singapore here.
And that's why we are optimistic, actually, increasingly optimistic about the growth sector in China.
Right. And so, do you think that it could, in fact, hurt, or maybe perhaps not all, the case for Chinese equities, given that there's a very strong growth sector there? Donald Trump also now saying that he could give Beijing some reduction in tariffs in order to get a tip-top deal done. So it doesn't seem as bad for China at this point.
Yes, the Trump's tariff policies are still, a lot of it is unclear. We will get to hear a lot more on 2nd April when he imposes the wider ranging tariffs across the world, not just China. But in terms of the sectors that are relatively better off, and this is where we as investors need to focus on, is where is the growth coming from? Where are the earnings coming from? So to your point about earnings, we see the three growth sectors, right, in China, for example, technology, the communication services, and the consumer discretionary services sectors. Those three are projected to deliver superior growth than the rest of the market. So the way we go about it is basically focus on those growth sectors in China, and there is this divergence between the what is listed in terms of China stocks in Hong Kong, the offshore sector, and what is listed onshore. So a follow-up of that is that we are increasingly optimistic on the growth sectors which are listed more in Hong Kong than in onshore. So we are more bullish actually on the offshore sector versus the onshore sector.
Right, and just checking in on Chinese markets, have all just actually turned positive. And so, the question, just to follow up on that, is whether you are thinking that, the optimism over the AI sector is in fact helping those offshore names perform better than onshore, and whether this is likely to continue, and how the US trade tariffs will impact both on and offshore equities, and whether there is a case there for China's AI boom possibly to help mitigate some of the tariff pain.
What's interesting is the dovetailing of this news with what was happening in the United States today during trading. There are large corporations that are pulling back on their AI projects, saying, and this was coming from Microsoft and a few others, saying that there's an overbuild for actual server capacity. All right. So just like almost always in tech, there's always an overbuild out. All right. And then all of a sudden they start slowing down their projects or whatever. Right. Now, my personal belief on this, from what I saw in the early days of high frequency trading, all right, post 9/11, all right, high frequency trading. And it's emerged and evolved over time, but it's like machine learning, right? But the thing is that there were a big push to be next to the NYSE, so Wall Street, so you can have a shorter cable to be able to do the high frequency trading, to do the arbitrage, all right, for scalping. So quick trades, 10,000 trades, in a day, kind of stuff, all right. So. And it was all about the length of the cable. The shorter the cable to the exchange, the better off you were. So there were firms that were on Wall Street, literally, that were trying to minimize the length of their cable into NYSE, all right? But not only that, with their algorithm, you can take these algorithms and convert them and put them on a hard chip. All right, on a chip for high frequency trading, not just through software. What has happened though over time is that the software and the speed of these computers, now you're talking when this was first starting, 2005, 2006, right? But you're looking at computers today, they are way faster just using the software than some of these hard versions of the high frequency trading PCIs, these cards that were custom built to plug into the back of a computer to do these high frequency trades. All right. So the point I'm making here is that because of technology and the speed of it at the desktop level, you can do things that you couldn't do 20 years ago. Like you can do a crash analysis of a vehicle with a $5,000 Apple that back when I was in automotive, you needed a $35,000 silicon graphics station to do. That's the point I'm making here, is that you won't need AWS. You won't need AI ported out to be calculated to only be ported back to your device. It's going to be local. It's going to be, I saw the same thing in high frequency trading, the same kind of concept here. It's just like, oh, you got to be like super fast and you got to get, you know, really high tech chips and all this stuff to be able to do the arbitrage. And eventually what happened is the software and just the basic hardware got so fast that there is not a big difference between hardwiring it, the algorithm, or using soft code as the algorithm. But the same thing's going to happen. Is that AI is going to be on your desktop, and you're not going to need these really high-powered servers unless you're doing something, you know, like radically new, like trying to predict for the last 15 days the weather around the world. All right, or you know, like protein folding, you know, 16 different proteins that come together as a composite, as a complex that leads to gene expression or something like that. You know, that's a little advanced for a desktop. But the point here is that if we're having we overbuilt out our servers, and that there is a scale back on CapEx for building out AI, well, if that's happening in the United States, I am sure that they have a problem in China. Because China's economy is not as robust as the United States right now. That's for sure. They have a problem. So if the United States has overbuilt AI, don't you think that China has? So there's a disconnect on what I am seeing in the news with this particular subject matter and what they're actually saying is going on. You know, we're the ones that are just trumpeting the whole AI boom. I think the AI boom is like at its peak, and we're actually going to see a decline of it for the build out of the servers. Okay, with that said, let's go back to live now here.
And that shouldn't have happened. And the White House is looking at it. He says about that, none of the information on there at any point threatened the operation or the lives of our servicemen there. So he contributed to the chat twice. Remember, he was on this chat group there, and he commented on this while at this press conference today with the Jamaican Prime Minister. Let's watch.
It so early in your term confirms the strength of historic friendship and strategic partnership between Jamaica and the United States, one built on shared values, democratic ideals, and people-to-people ties. Our nations have long been united by a common commitment to freedom, prosperity, and security, and your visit today reaffirms this bond. Today, we engaged in productive and constructive discussions focused on strengthening this partnership and expanding opportunities for collaboration. During our meeting, we addressed several critical areas of cooperation. Security, one major area. We reaffirmed our commitment to enhancing cooperation in combating transnational crime, ensuring the collective safety of our citizens, and mutually secured borders. We discussed a global war on gangs, and there is already significant policy alignment with both countries in this regard. The United States has been instrumental in supporting Jamaica's efforts to bolster its marine domain awareness and intelligence surveillance capabilities, which are crucial in our fight against organized criminal networks. We discussed expanded and repurposing development assistance towards our shared goals, including security. This will exponentially expand our cooperation in fighting lottery scams, transnational organized crimes, trafficking in guns, and building safe communities. We are committed in ensuring our partnership delivers results in driving down criminality and trafficking in this hemisphere. On Haiti, we look forward to continued partnership with the United States as we seek to work with the Haitian leadership and stakeholders to address the ongoing crises in Haiti. The extraordinary...
I want to go to if I can find it. If anyone remembers, there was the Naked Archaeologist, and he has a channel. He's getting older now, so you don't see a whole lot of publications from him. But he did a show on his channel, if I could find it. He did a show, and it was, yeah, here it is. Yeah, he's aged quite a bit, but if people remember, he did a show with about the Exodus. All right, now he did recently, 7 days ago, expert debunks the biggest myths about Palestine. This is Palestine 10, what he calls 102. Now you got to remember, he's a filmmaker from Canada. Yes, we know we got problems with the Canadians, but at least he's a hockey player, all right? But he's going to break it down from a filmmaker and a historian point of view, all right? And there's some really important pieces of history that most Americans don't know about. But if you listen to, these different talk show types, especially in the alt media, like Alex Jones or Stu Peters, they think they know it all about the subject matter, and they really don't. So I think it's important to play what the Naked Archaeologist has to say about this. His name's Simca. So it's Simca Sessions is the name of his channel that he created. He's aging now, so he doesn't really do the History Channel type documentaries anymore that I know of. But it's only 10 minutes long, so let's play it here.
Name is Charlotte Nicholson, and we
welcome to another Simcha session. Today we're going to be looking at the Palestinian-Israeli conflict not as a battle between Arabs and Israelis, Jews and Muslims. Today we're going to look at it as a battle, as a war of biblical proportions between myth and fact, lie and truth.
Simca's Sessions, out-of-the-box insights into history, religion, and politics.
The Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which has been dominating world headlines, has really become a much bigger thing. It's really about democracy versus tyranny. But on a metaphysical, almost religious level, it's really about truth and lies. It's a war between truth and lies. I'm going to address three major topics that people seem obsessed with. One is a Palestinian state. The Palestinians deserved a Palestinian state. There should be a two-state solution. And anybody against that, really, you're not a nice person. It's a lie that there is no Palestinian state. First of all, let me say, Hamas, for example, doesn't want a Palestinian state. This is just a made-up trope to attack Jews. Hamas explicitly says they want a worldwide Islamic caliphate. They think the idea of statehood is a Western liberal infidel invention. They don't want it. They'll say they want it on CNN and BBC because they're just fighting a media propaganda war. But if you look at their charter, or if you translate anything that they say in Arabic, they say explicitly, we don't want a state, we want a caliphate. But Hamas is not everybody. Well, here's the good news. 80% of Palestine is in Arab hands today, as I'm speaking to you. What? We have to understand, Palestine is a colonial endeavor. It's taking Judea, indigenous people, Jews, are from Judea and Israel, right here. And the colonialists, the Romans, the ancient pagan Romans, defeated the indigenous people and renamed it as a colonial project, Palestine. And then for 2,000 years, the province of Palestine continued to be in the hands of colonialism. Romans, Byzantians, Crusaders, Ottomans from Turkey, and finally the British colonials. And what did these colonial powers do? What did the British do? They took Palestine, the province of Palestine, not the independent, there was never an independent state of Palestine, but they took 80% of it, hacked it off, and gave it to a colonial Arab family, the Hashemites from Arabia. They imposed those people. There's over 11 million people living in Jordan today. People call them Jordanians. They're Palestinians. They are ruled by a foreign family. One of them is married, the king is married to a Palestinian woman. There's a Palestinian queen today. They're not all refugees. They're living in Jordan. And all they have to do is change the colonial name created by the British, Jordan, to Palestine, and voila, there's a Palestinian state, because 80% of Palestine is already a Palestinian state called Jordan. And then what happened to the last 20%? Many countries already recognize a Palestinian state under the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, which is ancient Judea and Israel, and in Gaza. That's in Palestinian hands. So that means that the Jews, the Zionists, Israel, only have 13% of the British colonial province of Palestine. So wait a minute, what's the fight about? We want a Palestinian state. You have 88% of Palestine. Well, that's a lie that they don't have a state. The truth is they do. And they create the lie, the anti-Israel, anti-Jewish forces, because they only consider Palestine whatever the Jews happen to have. The idea is not about creating a Palestinian state. It's about destroying a Jewish state. Well, the Jews, over their 12%, hey, they're colonialists. No, they're not. They're indigenous. The Arabs, as any fool can understand, are the colonial power because they come from Arabia, from what is now Saudi Arabia. And they conquered the Middle East. It's a racist trope to think that the indigenous people of all of the Middle East have to be Arabs. They're not. Jews are indigenous to Judea.
Monday.com is the best day for work, and here's why. Let me show you some of the mind-blowing things thousands of our customers are already doing.
Jews are indigenous to Judea. Berbers are indigenous to Morocco and Algeria. Mandeans are indigenous to Iraq. Copts are indigenous to Egypt. They're related to the ancient Egyptians. The Arabs there today come from Arabia. They're a colonial, conquering power. There are today 22 Arab states, including Jordan, aka Palestine. There's one Jewish state, but suddenly that's the colonial power. It's not the other ones. It's not the fact that they take over everybody's country and Arabize it. That's not colonialism. I mean, let's look at Turkey. Turkey was the seat of Christendom. Istanbul of today was called Constantinople. The Hagia Sophia Mosque used to be the biggest church in Christendom. When the Muslims conquered Turkey and Islamicized it, they turned the church into a mosque, and that's what happens all over the place. The other big lie is that the Jews are all white, racist, and they are oppressing the BIPOCs, the Black, Indigenous, or person of color, new term. No, that's a lie. Total lie.
All right, I want to interject here. There's a place called Hamtramck, Michigan. When I was a kid, Hamtramck was very Polish. Immigrants from Poland, and so it was a very Polish town. All right, this is around Detroit. It's next to Detroit. It's a small town. All right, and over time, what has happened is this Hamtramck has now turned completely Islamic. All right. And they actually have a call for prayer in Hamtramck, Michigan, where, really there's kind of a caliphate within Hamtramck. So it's no longer Polish anymore, which was primarily Christian, Polish kind of ancestry. All right. They've been pushed out, and it's Arabs now in Hamtramck. When I was a kid, Dearborn was basically middle-class white America. Dearborn today, it's Arab. It's Arab run, big time Arab run. One of the largest communities outside of the Middle East is in Dearborn, Michigan. So what Simca is saying about the Islamic takeover and this caliphate, I have seen personally in Michigan.
Millions, 500 million people in the Arab countries, almost no Jews. And in Israel, there's 9 million people, and 1.5 million of them are not even Jews, they're Arabs. They're living free lives with Israeli passports. They're in the parliament, they sit on the Supreme Court. What a lie. And out of the 7.5 million Jews, the majority are not Western. They're Jews from Arab lands. They're brown from Yemen. They're all different colors. They come from Egypt, Morocco. 800,000 Jewish refugees from Arab lands. Who's demonstrating on their behalf?
Okay.
Nobody.
All right.
They don't count. They may...
Another major. All right. So you have here in 1948 the Jewish population in Arab countries. Let's say in Egypt, for example, there were 75,000. In Iraq, there were 135,000. In Morocco, there were 265,000. In Tunisia, 105,000. Yemen, there were 63,000. So in 1948, there were 851,000 Jews in Arab countries. All right. So when you hear Stu Peters saying, "Oh, everyone that's living in Israel is all from Europe," that's not true. All right, that's not true. All right, 1958, you started to see a decline out of the Arab nations and into other nations like Israel. 469,000. In 1968, 69,000. In 1978, 31,000. And now in 2018, there's just over 3,000 Jews in Arab countries. Now, is the Jews really colonizing? This is the point that Simca's making. Is the Jews really colonizing the Middle East when there's a decline of the Jewish population in Arab countries? Now, they are moving to Israel. That's what's really happening. What it is that the Arabs don't want the Jews in Israel because they want all the land. They want the complete caliphate. That's the point that Simca is making. It's not about peace.
They
This
may be
this
darker
falls
skinned, but they don't count.
this falls right in line with what I was saying before. It's the battle between Jacob and Esau.
They're Jews. In Israel, you have a diversity, a true diversity. Ethiopian Jews. Israel conducted an airlift to bring their brethren here. Who else has done that? Out the country has gone in and taken not
Right?
the
So you have so many different nationalities in Israel. Some of it from Western Europe, some of them from Eastern Europe, some of them from Africa, some of them from other Middle Eastern countries. So it's a very diverse population in Israel. But when you listen to Stu Peters and when you listen to Alex Jones and when you listen to these anti-Zionists and want to demonize Jews, what do they keep on saying? Oh, it's the Ashkenazics. It's all the Ashkenazics. It's all Eastern Europeans that they're not even Jewish or blah, blah, blah. They don't even know what they're fucking talking about. They don't know what they're fucking talking about. But you got a big part of America that's listening to their bullshit.
So yes, but the poorest, the downtrodden, and flew them in. It's a total lie. Oh, but the Israelis, they're like Nazis. Are you kidding? I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. The Eastern European Jews are colonists? No, they're refugees. They're survivors. My parents got to this land with nothing. The Red Cross didn't help. They're Jews. UNRWA didn't help. United Nations Relief Work Organization Agency. They're only for Palestinians. Nobody helped. So they don't count the Holocaust survivors as victims of racism. Their children and grandchildren are suddenly racist. What a lie. During the war, Jews who had no state at that point, Israel wasn't born until after the war, modern Israel. Of course, there was an ancient Israel, but modern Israel was only born in 1948. But that didn't prevent the Jews from serving in all the various armies against Nazis. There was a Jewish brigade in the British Army. Jews served in the American Army, in the British Army, in the Red Army, like my dad, of blessed memory. Meanwhile, Pan-Arabism identified openly Arab nationalism with Nazism. They said so. Sami al-Juni, we are racist, we are pro-Nazi. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, where did he spend the war? With the Allies? No, with Hitler and Berlin. What a lie, to take the victims of Nazis and call them Nazis, and to take the racist pro-Nazis and suddenly they've become icons of liberation. Why? Because they wear keffiyehs? So here's the truth. There is a battle in the Middle East, but it's not just a battle between Israelis and Palestinians. It's not even just a battle between Israel, the one Jewish state, and 22 Arab states. No. It's a battle between lies and truth. And people who actually have a conscience have to make a choice. And I think that choice is pretty clear.
Yeah.
If you like my content,
well, I think that he did his short video. This was like 10 minutes long. And it really hits home on this whole idea that people have been warning about for a long time. And you got to worry about this caliphate. That what they do is they get in and then they start to Islamify your society. Case in point, take a look at what's happening in Germany. Look at what's happening in France. Look at what's happening in England. Simca is not wrong. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the collagen. This collagen has a very extensive amino acid profile. You use collagen to help improve your skin, your hair, your nails, your joints, your musculature, and your bones. there's a big scooper in here. It's a powder. You mix it with soft foods or with filtered water. Some people make a smoothie or put it in milk. It's up to you how you want to take it, but take it every day. Do some resistance training and it'll help with your bone structure and your joint health. And for skincare, collagen cross-links with vitamin C. You drink it with about 64 ounces of filtered water throughout the day, and it'll help improve your dermal layer. Take the collagen every day to improve your health. Now, a great way to improve the topical layer of your skin is to take the structural nanosilver gel. You can get it in a tube form or a dispenser, quick dispenser form. This is a multi-purpose supplement. All right. The structural nanosilver gel you put on your hand, on your skin every day, and it'll help to improve your topical layer. If you have a cut, an abrasion, minor burn, apply the gel on the lesion and you'll notice that it heals quicker. You can use it as an aftershave. Guys, after you shave, put it on your face and it'll help to soothe that razor burn. Women, you shaving your legs, guess what? Use the structural nanosilver gel to reduce that razor burn and to heal your skin. If you're not feeling well, or people around you at work or at home are not feeling well, and you're concerned, take the structural nanosilver gel, put it on your hands, put it around your mouth, around your nose, around your ears, around your eyes, lightly coat your nostrils. It stays active for 5.5 hours. It behooves you to have this. It's a multi-purpose, and not just that, it will help with the health of your topical layer of your skin. So if you want to improve the topical layer, use the structural nanosilver gel. To improve the dermal layer, take the collagen and the vitamin C and drink the filtered water, the 64 ounces of filtered water. It'll cross-link and improve your dermal layer. And to improve your basal layer for your skin, take the C60 and the resveratrol. And what will happen is you're going to be improving the actual basal layer that's producing new skin cells. So you're targeting all three layers, all three main layers of your skin. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the great supplements and products that I have. They're dual purpose, help support my work, and help support your health and wellness. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back to the video I played was Palestine 102. He made a video which I have not seen, so I'm going to watch it with you. This is Palestine 101. Expert explains Palestine facts you need to know. So this is 8 minutes long, so let's play that.
To date, we've been able to manufacture over 550 casitas, with many of those being deployed in 6 states all around the country, Arizona.
The Palestinian-Israeli conflict is obviously headline news around the world. And because I'm a 3-time Emmy-winning filmmaker, journalist who specializes in history, people have come to me and asked me to comment on Palestine from a historical point of view. Okay, from a historical point of view. Now, I'm not saying there aren't people running around today saying we are Palestinians, but from a historical point of view, Palestine never existed. Not once, not for a moment. There's no prime minister, king, queen that you can point at. There was never an independent Palestinian state, kingdom, anything. The Christian Bible doesn't mention Palestine once. The Hebrew Bible doesn't mention Palestine once. The Holy Book of Islam, the Quran, does not mention Palestine once. Why? Because it didn't exist. The area was known 1700 years before Jesus as Canaan. And there were a bunch of tribes vying for domination, in this area where I'm broadcasting from now, the Holy Land. The Jews, the tribe of Judah, won out. That's why we're called Jews. That's why I'm called a Jew. I'm a descendant of Judeans. And in this area, there have been 4 independent states, none of them Palestine, all of them Jewish. In ancient times, Judah, Judea, Israel. In modern times, Israel. So what's going on here? I mean, what's going on here? Anybody going to church Easter time knows Jesus was crucified, and on top by the Romans, and on top of his cross, they put a sign, King of the Jews, not King of the Palestinians, not King of Palestine, King of the Jews. Jesus went to Jerusalem, the capital of ancient Judea, the Jewish kingdom, to celebrate Passover, the Last Supper, and he got crucified by the Roman occupiers, the Western European colonials that took over this area and dominated the Jews, and they crucified Jesus as they crucified tens of thousands of Jews at the time. Why? Because the Jews were rising in revolution against the foreign occupiers. The indigenous Jews wanted freedom. In fact, the Jewish struggle for Judea is the longest lasting liberation movement in human history. There was no Palestine. Palestine was invented by the Roman occupiers. It's not an Arabic word, it's a Latin word. And why did they make it up? Because they wanted to stick it to the indigenous Jews who were giving them trouble. You know, Judea was Rome's Vietnam. They were stuck here. The Jews kept fighting for freedom. And then when the Romans crushed the Jews, sold them by the hundreds of thousands into slavery, destroyed the temple that Jesus visited, destroyed Jerusalem, the capital of Judea, destroyed the Jewish kingdom of Judea. Then, after they dispersed the Jews to the four corners of the earth, they said, now we're going to stick it to you. We're going to rename your country, Judea, Palestina. Why? Because 700 years earlier, there had been a people, Aegean occupiers, people from the area of Greece, Crete, that had come to occupy Judea. You know, it's in the Bible, the famous fight between David and Goliath. Goliath was a Philistine. David became king of Judea. They couldn't beat militarily. The Bible talks about that hot Philistine woman, Delilah, who tried to seduce Samson, the Jewish hero, into submission. The Philistines were the enemies of the Jews in the Bible. They had disappeared 700 years before Jesus, before the Romans. And then after the Romans conquered Judea, they said, now we're going to show you. We're going to rename your Jewish land, Judea, Palestina.
A superior smooth taste, good flavor.
Here's a hot take. If you have a message inside you that people are meant to hear, it'll never make the impact that it truly deserves until you have one thing, an audience.
Palestina. To honor those ancient enemies of yours that no longer even exist. And sure enough, Palestina became a province, not an independent state, not an Arab state, a province in the Roman Empire, the pagan Roman Empire, and then in the Christian Roman Empire out of modern-day Turkey, the Byzantium. And then the Arabs arrived 2,200 years after the Jews. Where did the Arabs come from? They came from Arabia, obviously. And they conquered Judea. They conquered the province of Palestina, and it became part of their empire. And then came the Crusaders, and then came the Ottomans, and then came the British. Always Palestine as a province in an occupational empire. Never an independent state, certainly not an independent Arab state. And then, miraculously, the Jews came back. It's never happened in history that an indigenous people that's exiled comes back like that, reclaims their land. But here's the rub. The British that occupied Palestine in 1946 hacked off 80% of Palestine and gave it to the Arabs. Yeah. Why don't we know that 80% of Palestine is in Arab hands? Because the British renamed it Jordan. And then they didn't give it to the local Arabs. They took a family from Saudi Arabia called the Hashemites, and they imposed them on the local Arabs, and they called it the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. To this day, this happened in 1946, and to this day, it's called Jordan. Get rid of the Hashemites, rename Jordan Palestine, and voila, you've solved the Middle East problem. But you see, that's not how it works. Even though the Jews are on something like 12% of the British-controlled province of Palestine, that's Palestine. It's never, Palestine's never whatever Arabs have in their hands. It's only whatever the Jews have. Any piece of territory that the Jews rule, that's Palestine. Why? Because basically the whole point of the exercise is to airbrush the Jews and Judea out of history. Rename Judea the West Bank. The West Bank? What's the West Bank? It's never mentioned in the Bible, in any Bible. In the Quran, it's never mentioned. But don't call it Judea, because then it might sound like the Jews belong in Judea. Just turn history on its head. The indigenous people are suddenly the occupiers, and the occupiers are suddenly indigenous. Again, why? To airbrush the Jews out of history. Why? Airbrushing them out of history is a prelude to actually destroying them physically. It's a preface to genocide. So why are all these people?
So you got to pay attention to what I've been saying since October of 2023. This is a battle between Esau and Jacob. Now, I'm really sure that Jacob's going to win. All right. How do I know that? Well, Dr. Paul Cottrell comes from the soul root of Jacob. That's why. But better yet, it's already been written down for over 2,000 years. That's what's going to happen. So the reality of the situation is this. There is a battle that we are seeing play out on our television screens day in and day out that is biblical. And that battle is between Jacob and Esau.
Outing from the river to the sea. Why are they pro-genocide? Why, some 75 years after the Holocaust, people want to do it again? Well, either they're brainwashed by the media. I'm a member of the media, I know how it goes. Or they're ignorant, they're just ignorant. Or they're dumb. Or they're Jew haters.
He doesn't pull any punches at all. But, he is a pretty, he's got some good street cred, with his filmmaking and his historical knowledge. I think that people need to step back and kind of what's the historical context here? What's really going on? All right. But there is the Kabbalistic metaphysical thing that's going on, not just the historical context. And that is, there is a battle of the soul roots for the ownership of the Temple Mount. And the Arabs cannot reboot the temple. They've had the ownership of the Temple Mount for how long? Since the Crusades, since Saladin, all right? They can't do it. Their Dome of the Rock can't reboot the machine. There are only a very few individuals that can reboot that machine. And they're Kohanim, right? And the Arabs are not Kohanim. So if they were able to reboot the machine, why didn't they do it? Because they can't. Now, if they can't, then doesn't it seem to make sense that there are a certain group of people, for whatever reason that's beyond our understanding, on why that Temple Mount needs to be held by a certain type of soul root, the soul root of Jacob, not the soul root of Esau. They've had their opportunity. Why can't they reboot the machine? Why? Because they don't have the code. They don't know how to do it. Now the code, people would say, what's the code? Well, the code is what's in the Torah. Now, what is interesting here is that the Kohanim, the Kohen Gadol, the head Kohanim, the head priest, used to have a series of garments that were put on him, and there was a breastplate. Now, some people say the breastplate's actually in the Vatican. I don't know if that's true or not, but the breastplate had different stones that had an engraving of certain letters, and it was arranged in a grid on the breastplate for the Kohen Gadol. And what is interesting is that if you asked it a question, literally it was a computer. All right. Now you're talking about thousands of years ago, where officially electricity wasn't invented yet, but it was a computer. It was a set of stones that were engraved. You can ask it a question, and the stones would light up and spell out something. Now, the problem comes in is that the way you phrase the question was supposed to be in short answer form. Yes or no would be a better way to ask the question. And then the breastplate would light up saying yes or no. All right. Now, each jewel or precious stone represented one of the 12 tribes. All right. So my understanding is it was a 3x4 grid, and each stone represented each tribe, and there were also engraved on the stone certain names of God, and the letters that are on the stones would light up based on the question you asked. Now, if you asked a long form question, there would be like not a yes or no answer to it. Then the Kohen Gadol would have to write down what letters lit up, and then decipher what it meant. So just imagine getting an answer for something, and it's not lit up in order, but it's lit up in mixed letters, and you're trying to unscramble that and figure out what the sentence for the answer is. Okay, that's the problem that they had. Now, the thing that I learned just recently is that this breastplate also had, in between the stones, it looked like they could put a scroll in it. So you have the breastplate with the stones that could light up by asking a question. But there's also a small scroll in between each row. And it's almost as if it was kind of like code or software to run the stones. Now, this is weird stuff, because it's using kind of like a energy source that's not hooked up to electricity. And it's using letters in scrolls as kind of like the software to let the hardware, which are the stones and the engraved letters, to light up. All right. Now, this is, people that wore this plate were extremely holy people. All right. And not only that, the ones that wore the breastplate, that were the Kohen Gadol, their life expectancy was like 12 months. So they became purified at a holy level, but to be able to be in this realm and to be able to get this divine radiation, it literally killed you. To be close to the ark, it was radioactive. I'm using it in a loose term, a radioactive spiritually. All right, but the Kohen Gadol would die. It was not uncommon for the Kohen Gadol to die in the Holy of Holies, and they had to have a chain to actually pull him out because no one else could go in. They had to pull the dead body out of the Holy of Holies. So there's something very radioactive or very, very powerful that will kill the soul. But the thing is that these people were able to light up these stones that were on the breastplate, that were with these soft code scrolls that were slid in between the rows. This is what I mean, that there's something special about the soul root of Jacob. It's not given to Esau. It's not given to the Arabs. It's not given to anybody else. It's not even given to regular Jews. The Cohens are only ones on earth that can do this. Now, sadly, when they're doing this, they have a very short life expectancy, like 12 months. But the thing is they can do it. Nobody else can. So, really, does the Temple Mount really belong to the Arabs? I mean, just from the Kabbalistic aspects of what I just mentioned? Obviously not. Obviously not. They can't reboot the machine. And that's why you listen to Dr. Paul Cottrell, because no one's telling you this. Now, what still surprises me, and I don't understand why, is they didn't sacrifice the red heifers yet. I don't get it. I don't understand why that is. Okay, let's continue. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ubiquinol. This is the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can get. Ubiquinol is really important. It's an antioxidant. It's going to soak up free radicals, reduce stress on the mitochondria, so you're going to have more ATP. And ubiquinol will help support your neurons. Really important when you get 40 years of age or older, you need to support your neurons. NAD Plus is a supplement that will boost up your NAD plus levels. That's important for energy. It is also important to repair your DNA damage, either cellular DNA damage or your mitochondrial DNA damage. So boosted NAD plus levels will help you to repair that. And NAD plus helps to protect your neurons. A great stack for neuroprotection is the NAD plus and the ubiquinol. If you're 40 years of age or older, you should be taking this every day. Trust me, my father died from ischemic dementia. You don't want that to happen to you. It's pretty bad. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the NAD plus supplement and the ubiquinol. Stack it together. It's a great way to stack. All right, let's Live Now is in commercial break, and Al Jazeera is talking about Denmark, and I don't really care about Denmark right now. Let's see here. Let's play another Simca sessions here. He's talking about now UN refugee scam. Let's see what he has to say about that.
Celresto knows that some situations just suck. Fleas and ticks suck too. Celresto can help with this one. One color provides the long.
One of the big issues in the world today, headline news, is the Palestinian refugee crisis. We'll see for a moment why I put refugee in quotation marks, but just let's say this. There's really two agencies that deal with refugees. One for the world and a separate one for the Palestinians. Let me explain. The whole world, all refugees on planet Earth fall under the category of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR for short. They're responsible for all refugees. If you have to run across the border today and become a refugee, UNHCR, you fall under their mandate. They will take care of you. And their definition of refugees, if you fled, crossed the border, an international border, and you're afraid to go back, then you're a refugee. But your kid is not a refugee. You can't pass refugee status down, especially if your kid is now, has a Canadian passport or an American passport or a French passport. He or she is not a refugee anymore. That's the UNHCR. That definition works for every person on planet Earth except Palestinians. They have a different bureaucracy. The United Nations Relief Works Agency, UNRWA, and they have a different definition. You can pass through your dad, male, your refugee status. So even though there were 700,000 Palestinian refugees in the Arab-Israeli war in 1948, 47, 48, at that time they were fighting, and there were 700,000 Palestinians who fled. They were refugees, and they're not alive anymore, most of them. Maybe a couple still left from 1948, but they're not alive. But they can pass their refugee status on to their kids, their grandkids, forever. So it doesn't matter. You could be Bella or Gigi Hadid, you could be multimillionaires in California. As far as the UNRWA is concerned, they'll count you as a Palestinian refugee. They'll inflate the numbers. So because of these two different agencies, you have two different outcomes. Every refugee population.
This is the reason why you need to listen to these types of podcasts, because who would have known this? I mean, I didn't know this, and I would consider myself an educated individual. That they're passing on their status, their refugee status, from one generation to another. How could that be? So you can live high on the hog in the United States, and you're still considered a Palestinian refugee 3 generations in since the migration to the United States. So when we listen to the UN and about how many Palestinian refugees there are, it's overinflated. How many really are there?
World goes down with time, except the Palestinians, they go up with time. So at the same time as 700,000 Palestinians fled the Arab-Israeli conflict, 14 million Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs fled the division of the Indian subcontinent. 14 million. Today, out of those 14 million refugees in 1947, there's 0 left. But the Palestinians, they went from having 700,000 refugees to almost 8 million.
Now, this is what's really important. This is really important. When it comes to Esau, even in the Bible, it says this. Esau knows how to hunt. He's cunning. He's smart. Esau's not a dumb person. Esau is a person you need to pay attention to. And he's a shyster. There's a shyster aspect to him. He's an intelligent, cunning individual that knows how to hunt. All right? So he can convince people. He's a thief. All right? He's a person that knows how to manipulate. There's an intelligence, there's a manipulation, there's a charisma to win certain groups. That's Esau. And you just are seeing how Esau, in a microcosm, is using, refugee status that increases over time, not decreases over time. Believe me, the original families that immigrated to the United States because, with refugee status back in the 1940s or 1950s, they were Palestinians, all right? And they were having nice life in middle-class America, or maybe even their upper middle-class America, can you really honestly say that their offspring living in middle-class America are refugees compared to what they came from? Of course not. Of course not. But how can they justify that they're still refugees? This is the cunningness and the thievery of Esau. And it was warned in the Bible about this.
Happened? Well, everybody's a refugee. If they have one male in their lineage, which we don't have to really check too hard, who claims to be or was a Palestinian refugee. Now you got to understand the consequence of this. The consequence is that the UNHCR has a bureaucratic interest in solving refugee problems. Why? Because they've got to put out a lot of fires. Today they're in Eritrea, tomorrow they're in Sudan. They got to put out the fires. But UNRWA has only one group of people to take care of, the Palestinian refugees. If there was peace in the Middle East, UNRWA would be out of business.
Exactly.
A multi-billion-dollar business.
Exactly. And Simca's hit the nail on the head on this one. When it comes to nonprofits, NGOs, in theory, how it's supposed to work is you're supposed to solve the problem.
I found some web results. I can show them if you ask again from your iPhone.
What? All right. So once in a while, my wonderful Siri will start talking for whatever reason. But okay, get back to the point here. Nonprofits and NGOs should be focused on going bankrupt, meaning, solve the problem and they are no longer needed. That's what if they really have a mission, that should be their mission statement. So, solve the problem so they no longer are in existence. What happens is there's so much money involved, and people that are running these organizations get administration fees, and it can be, upwards to hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, depending on the amount of money that is flowing into the NGO. All right. They have because of the financial incentive, they don't have the incentive to solve the problem. And so here's again another corruption that's through the soul root of Esau. Why do you need UNRWA? Why can't it be under the other UN? What was it? UNHCA? Why can't it be under that? Because they're special. They're special. Because Esau's special.
There's over 30,000 UNRWA employees. So let's take UNRWA schools. Some of the teachers are Hamas members. They're terrorists by State Department definition. And what are they teaching? They publish little books to inculcate hate in little Arab babies, to just teach them to die and kill. Abuse, yes. And what do they do with this school besides teach hate? They put missiles in the basement and ammunition so that it's a lose-lose for Israel. Either they let them fire all the missiles or they bomb the school and then they're baby killers. That's UNRWA. UNRWA has an interest in perpetuating the conflict. UNHCR has an interest in solving conflicts. Now you could say, whoa, and what's the consequence? And why is that? Well, the why is very easy. The Palestinians are fighting Jews. So that has been weaponized in the war against the Jews. It's not that people love Arabs. There's 10 million Arab refugees in Syria. Who cares about them? Who's going on the campuses of Harvard and Columbia and saying, solve that problem? Nobody. What about the refugees in Sudan, in Eritrea? Nobody cares. The same issue.
The same issue was happening with the Black Lives Matter movement. They didn't care about the atrocities that are going on in Africa. Last I looked, people in Africa are black. All right, most of them. But the Black Lives Matter movement didn't care about what's happening with the genocide that's happening in Africa. Because all it is about reparations in the United States, but how they will benefit from getting money from someone to justify, you know, their lifestyle. So you got the same problem. You have all these refugees or, you know, atrocities that are happening in other Arab countries. But the intelligentsia, the Ivy League schools and the Ivy League plus schools, and the ultra-liberal student body, they want to focus on the Palestinians, which is actually a small microcosm of a larger problem that is going on with the lives of Arabs in Arab countries. Look at the atrocities that are going on in Iran between secularism and the Ayatollah. Are they protesting about that to do regime change with the Ayatollah? No, I never saw that ever on the campus of Harvard. But you'll find that Arafat garb wearing protester walking up and down the yard saying, you know, how important it is to free Palestine. So you got to like start asking the question, like, what's really going on here? Who's funding it? And these protesters, where are they getting this stupid ideology from? Who's feeding it to them? Some of them are the liberal professors. Some of it are these organizations that are paying these protesters. But the thing is that Esau, if you look at this from a metaphysical, Kabbalistic perspective, Esau is a cunning soul root. And there's thievery that's part of his soul root. And he's a hunter, he's a killer. He was born red and hairy. So there's a lot of fire and anger in him. It's not a person that is calm, collective. And this is the reason why Esau could not boot up the machine, because there's too much anger in him. You gotta, the Shekhinah does not approach the Kohen Gadol if the Kohen Gadol is angry. Actually, the Shekhinah runs. So if the soul root of the Kohen Gadol, in theory, was Esau, the Shekhinah wouldn't be able to be close to the Kohen Gadol to boot up the machine, because the soul root's too angry.
Seem to care about are the Palestinian refugees that are actually, most of them, not refugees. Why? Because it's being weaponized, this issue, in the war against the Jews.
But what will happen? What will happen is most people will try to believe what Stu Peters is saying or what Alex Jones is saying, and trying to demonize and try to have all these connected dots like David Icke, that it's some big cabal. And it's really simple. It's really simple. Which soul root? Just ask the question. When you listen to these people that are promoting this anti-Semitism, or even these crazy conspiracy theories, ask, when you're listening to these people, just ask the simple question: why is it that Esau cannot boot up the temple? And you start diving into that question, and you start realizing the soul root of Esau is deficient. And what it is that Esau wants what Jacob has. and he's willing to destroy the world for it. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the Gladiator barley. This is a high density protein. You take a half a scoop or a full scoop each day, mix it with filtered water, milk, or soft foods or a smoothie. It's up to you how you want to take it. This will help you to build up muscle, really important. It'll help to detoxify your body. It will help to soak up free radicals with superoxide dismutase and reduce inflammation. That will help with recovery time if you work out, but not just that, it will help with your immune system by bringing down chronic inflammation. And you can mix it with Boomer Boost, which did I talk about Boomer Boost already? No, I haven't yet. Heirloom barley, it's high density protein, very similar to the Gladiator barley, but it doesn't focus on the strength gains. Now, if you take the barley with the Boomer Boost, you're going to be able to control your A1C levels. But Boomer Boost is 68 nutrients. Take a look at the label on my website. This will target your cardiovascular health, your brain health, boost up your energy levels, improve your metabolism, and help with your strength. And what you'll notice is within 72 hours of taking this, you're going to have this steady burn of energy, and you're going to have more vitality. You're going to want to move around and do things. And that when you're doing that, you're going to have better sleep and better mental acuity. Your overall health will improve. You're going to start losing weight. You take a full scoop of this for your breakfast or for your lunch, mix it with soft foods, a smoothie, milk, filtered water, but that's your meal for breakfast or for lunch. Just take it once a day. And what you're going to notice is you're going to be losing weight and you're going to have energy. You're not going to be sluggish, so don't worry about that. And you're going to get healthy. Now, if you couple it with the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley, you're going to get the protein that you need. Again, 1 scoop a day, half a scoop or a full scoop of the barley. Mix them together, and now you have this super combo where you're helping your cardiovascular health, your brain health, you're boosting up your strength and musculature, you're helping your metabolism, your energy levels are going to go up, you're reducing inflammation, you're soaking up free radicals, and you're detoxifying your body. It's a very powerful combo here. And the amount for 1 month for the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator barley or the heirloom barley together, right? The Boomer Boost or the Gladiator barley or the Boomer Boost and the heirloom barley. The cost of this per month is cheaper than I'm sure what you're paying per month for your breakfast or for your lunch. So you're going to save money, you're going to lose weight, and you're going to get healthy. So take the Boomer Boost and the Gladiator barley together. If you want to gain the strength gains and control your A1C levels and get healthy, that's a great way to do it. But you can also do it with the heirloom barley, but it doesn't focus so much on the strength gains. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get healthy. There are too many people in the United States that have chronic problems that are self-induced. You can reverse it. You can get healthy, but you got to pay attention how to stack. It's a holistic approach. It works. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Thank you for listening. That's the end of the transmission. Have a nice night.